Next up on our card is 1 p.m. Eastern. Indianapolis Colts 0-2 on the year. First road game at Tennessee Titans 1-1, 0-1 at home. Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. And look, I reap the rewards of Tennessee's win. But, there was a lot of spots in that game when it looked like it was. I mean, with 13:06 left in the fourth, the Seahawks were up 30-16. The Seahawks had 94.7% chance probability of winning. With 4 minutes and 12 seconds left, the Titans had the ball at their own 32, and Seahawks probability was still 91.5%. But it just felt like the right spot with an angry football team. I mean, look at what the angry football teams did in week 2. They stepped up. And now, what do the Titans do against the Colts when the Colts are the very angry football team? Colts, Titans. This total opened up at 50. It's dropped to 48. Pinnacle still hanging a 48.5. From a spread standpoint, the Colts open up as 6-point favorites. That's moved to 5. That is now 5 points. We're in Nissan Stadium, Nashville, Tennessee. Colts coming off a 27-24 loss at home to the Rams. This is the first 0-2 start in Frank Reich's 4-year career or 4-year tenure as the Colts head coach. Carson Wentz sprained both of his ankles. Fuck, come on, man. And he watched from the sidelines as Jacob Eason could do squat-ass nothing. Came in for the final 2 possessions. Two for 5, I think he went. 2 passes for 25 yards, and he threw a pick. Wentz is listed as day-to-day and plans to take part in practice on Wednesday. Test out his health. We didn't see – he wasn't in a walking boot or anything like that. Sprains both his ankles. Fucking ballerina. 20 for 31 for 247 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He also ran 5 times for 37 yards. But we saw Michael Pittman. We questioned. We were like, well, none of these receivers look dangerous, and I don't think T.Y. Hilton's going to come in and look dangerous when he gets off the IR. But Pittman did. 8 catches for 123 yards. Jack Doyle, tight end, 5 catches for 64 yards. Jonathan Taylor carried the ball 50 times for 51 yards. But the Colts just get nothing in the red zone. They were stopped 4 straight times at the 1-yard line to start the game off. I mean, that hurts. That hurts the morale on the sidelines. They were incapable of sustaining a pass rush. Muhammad had their lone sack. DeForest Buckner did get 2 hits on Stafford. Right tackle Braden Smith was inactive with a foot injury. He's listed as questionable this week. Cornerback Xavier Rhodes was inactive. He's listed as questionable this week. As we know, T.Y. Hilton remains on the injured reserve, and Paris Campbell, another wide receiver, inactive with an abdomen injury. He's listed as questionable. Titans got a huge win for them, 33-30. They just kept coming. At the Seahawks. And that's what a ground attack will do to you. You wear down defenses. Tannehill, 27 for 40 for 347 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. He was 7 for 7 on the final drive of regulation. And 6 of those 7 passes went to running backs. They faced just 1 third down. I mean, they were very impressive in that final drive. They finished with 532 total yards, 345 in the second half in overtime. Julio Jones, monster day with 6 catches for 128 yards. Derrick Henry was a beast. Carried the ball 35 times for 182 yards, 3 touchdowns. He adds a career-high 6 receptions for 55 yards. If he can get confident catching the ball out of the backfield, I mean, he's a bad man. Now 4 games with at least 150 yards rushing and 3 or more touchdowns. Barry Sanders, 6. Jim Brown, 6. LaDainian Tomlinson, 5. Eric Dickerson also has 4. That's the company this man is in. He became the 18th player in league history with at least 10 games, 150 yards rushing. Titans are 10-0 in those games. But the offensive line took a big blow. 2 hours before kickoff, Taylor Lewan limped off the field with a knee injury. Sambrailo started in his place just like last year. And I guess the good news is there's no news. Lewan's listed as questionable. Roger Saffold III went down with a shoulder injury. He came back, then he left for good. There's no update from him either. A linebacker, Jayon Brown, and cornerback Caleb Farley, and tight end Anthony Ferkser are all listed as questionable this week. This is a wildly interesting game, and I want to back the Colts, but there's no way that I would do it with the Carson Wentz situation. Take it away, Bebsie, Colts, Titans.
Well, I think you summed that up pretty good with one sentence. Yeah, you want to back the Colts, but with old two sprained ankles, Carlos, I don't know how you do that. Did he do it on the same play? Did he sprain one and then take a couple more steps and then sprain the other? I agree. You can't lay money with Eason as the possible quarterback. I don't know. Look, this game to me screams under because I'm looking at two teams that really need to rely on the run, especially this week. And they just don't. The Colts can't get the run game going. Jonathan Taylor has had an abysmal start to the year for his caliber of a player. What did you say, 15 times for 51 yards? Not great numbers from what I think is a premier back. I think they're struggling a bit on the O-line. And you said bad news that Taylor Lewan went down a couple hours before the game. Didn't he give up 5 sacks in week 1 to Chandler Jones? And then they won week 2. I don't know if that's that big of a hit. Maybe Taylor Lewan just doesn't have it upstairs right now. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's back. Maybe he starts playing better. I think the bigger loss is Roger Saffold. But I just feel like Derrick Henry can be his own offensive line. He is such a machine, and maybe because of that offensive line injuries, they did decide to pass to him a little more, get him in some space. I'm interested to see what the game plan is here. I think Tennessee wins. I think the Colts can keep it close. And I think because it's a divisional game that's going to probably lean on what run games they have, I think this feels like an under spot. What are we sitting at here?
It's
down to low number.
Down to 48. But listen to this. And these are the spots where you either go with the sharp money or leave it alone. And my first instinct is that I want to bet the under because I think Carson Wentz is going to be running for his life and panicking, and he's going to buckle. And we saw what happened when Eason comes in, things fall apart. But listen to these numbers. 5,737 tickets in. 83% of the tickets are on the Titans, but just 48% of the cash. Sharps are on the Colts. And if this was a healthy Wentz, I'd be right there with him. But I just don't trust Wentz's ballerina ankles. Actually, ballerinas probably have strong ankles. Ballerinas probably kick the shit out of Wentz. For unders, 52% of the tickets are on the unders. And just 20% of the cash, which also throws me for a loop. So this is I'm going to sit back and figure this shit out. But the under makes so much sense because I think that Wentz is going to buckle and Easton's going to be in there.
Yeah, I can't see with just given how easily Wentz seems to get hurt. No knock on him. He plays a big boys game. It's very hard to not get hurt in the NFL. Jimmy, if you and I played one snap in the NFL, we'd probably both be at least semi-paralyzed. So I'm not going to shit on the poor guy for being hurt. But, yeah, it's really hard to lay your hard-earned cash on the injury prowess of one Carson Wentz.
Dommy's funny. He says if Wentz was healthy, I'd bet the Titans. Okay, I'm going to do nothing at this point, but I understand the under. And, you know, what's changed my MLB handicapping is just trusting the market. And by trusting it, I mean that if it doesn't fit with what I cap, I just stay off of it, which has now been proven. I had my guy TJ start tracking these situations I'm in when I have a plan, the market's on the other side, so I stay off of it. Had I have switched, I'm hitting at 65%, but I still don't have the balls to say, okay, let's just throw everything that my plan was out the door and just go with this market. So I'm not going to do that. JT says loving Titans overs. So no move for me at this point. Is there anything you want to do here in Colts Titans before we move on?
I thought about moving on that under, but with what appears to be sharp money on the over, I'm not going to touch. You've scared me off of it.
And Bebsie's going to be on with us every Sunday morning. So lots of time to make changes and send action in. That is Colts, Titans. And if Wentz is wealthy, if Wentz was healthy, I'd be on the Colts. And the under does make sense, but I'm not going to move on it.